Okay, we stopped at number 9, I think. Suhrid Mitra Haryudasina Madhyastha Dveshya Bandhushu Sadhushvapi cha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate Yogi Yunjita Satatam Atmanam Rahasi Sthitaha Ekakiyata Chittatma Nirashir Aparigraham. There is a long compositor. Suhrit Mitra Ari Udasina Madhyastha Dveshya Bandhusho. So among bandhus, among relatives, among dveshyas, among the haters or enemies, Madhyastha, among the judges, those who judge all the parties, Udasina, among those who do not judge, completely indifferent, Ari, among the enemies, and Mitras, and among the friends, and Suhrits, and among the dear friends. So, Sadhushvapi cha papeshu, among saints and sinners, Samabuddhih, who has same mind, equality in the mind, Vishishyate, he excels. So with equal attitude towards all of them, one excels. And then, Yogi Yunjita Satatam Atmanam Rahasi Sthitaha Ekaki Sat Yata Chittatma Nirashir Aparigrahah. Yogin, Yunjita, should be uniting himself. Yeah, it's Atmanepadam, middle voice. Should be united Satatam, constantly Atmanam, with his self. Rahasi sthitah, staying in the secret place. Secretly, literally, should be uniting himself with himself. Ekaki, alone. Yatachittatma, whose Atman, whose self is, whose consciousness is under control. Yatachitta, controlled chitta, who is controlling his own chitta. Nirashih, who has no expectations. Aparigrahah, who is not attaching himself to any possessions or any surroundings or any contexts. So contexts are for him only because they are there, as it were, but they are not determining him. They are not dictating to him the manner of viewing himself. Yeah? Maybe they will be kind of dictating to him the ways how he should behave, but in his own eyes he will not change. So he will be the same in every condition, which is a big achievement, to be the same person in whatever context. Yeah? Okay. Parigraha usually understood as something which we have, possessions. Yeah. Literally, an idea of possession banished from his mind. But it is something which is holding us back, something which we, why Mother didn't want us to have many these possessions in Auroville, wanted to have a minimal number of possessions, because she said we have to pay attention to things we own. Yeah? We have to take care of things. It's not just you have things. You will have to earn money to take care of your house and to paint it, to repair it, and all your consciousness goes into the maintenance of your things. And that is not the ideal situation for the self-development, it seems. So to be free, to free man from his properties and possessions, we should have only minimal things which are helping us to be, but no more than that. She wanted, if we have to do something, then better we do it for community. Like communal kitchen, we cook for all. That would be much better than everybody has a kitchen at home and cooks for himself, as it were. There is some kind of vaster consideration of the development of the spirit. We have to become free from this grasp of private properties and possessions and attachment to those properties, as if they are extensions of ourselves. And it is true in some way. Yes, Siegfried. Yeah, please.
For me, the problem is not to possess something. Is when the thing possesses you. This is the worst situation.
Yeah, that's all about that. Yeah, it's not about that. It's you cannot possess things and be free from them. You will have to pay attention to things. You have to keep them in order. Mother didn't want us to neglect physical reality. If you are in charge of something, you have to keep it in a perfect condition, and that takes time. It's a very logical thing, so if I have only a place where I can sleep and food where I can eat, and it is a healthy food and a healthy place to sleep, and all other activities can be dedicated to the community. If I need something for my self-development, like art or music, instruments, she was always for that, yes, but not for the extras as people have, many rooms, many different garments and cloth and shoes and God knows what, several bicycles, cars, everything is there for no reason, truly speaking. Well, if you think about it, you will see that there is a reason for it. Yeah. So it takes time. It takes all your lifetime to maintain your possessions, even if you are not feeling that you depend on them. But you have to take energy and time and resources to really maintain things in order. So it's very... So she wanted to organize Auroville in such a way that everybody would have enough time for their self-development, and half of our time we had to dedicate for the development of community, communal work, very important, selfless work, service, and the rest, half of the time, for our self-development.
Yeah, I'm thinking this possession. When you possess things, right, it's a separator. It becomes, this is mine, this is not mine, this is yours. So it puts the emphasis on me and mine versus ours, right? And then this communal effort that the mother spoke with breaks down that me and mine, and it becomes ours. But it also, the possessions, that attachment, obviously, it as you were saying, I mean, it takes away, it focuses on the external environment at the expense of the internal. So, keeping that balance. I know it sounds very straightforward, but it just kind of clicked back to,
absolutely, that balance between
things.
Yeah, absolutely. This outer and inner balance, where everything is in balance enough that we can develop inwardly and pay attention to outer development in proportion to our inner development. Not in this disproportionate way where outer takes more and inner is forgotten, or inner takes more and outer is forgotten. Neither nor. Yeah? It has to be in a proper balance. And then something happens. The magic happens. But this balance was never found. In the West, it is more towards outer and possessions. They are representative of ourselves. Money, wealth, power. In the East, it was like this before, more to the possessions of the spirit, neglecting nature, going to the caves, being naked, walking around, and being worshipped for that you renounced all the possessions, visibly for all. You don't have anything. How we were, you remember, praising Gandhi that he died and he left only his glasses, his something, shoes, chappals, and something else. Three things. And we were praising him for that, as if that is some kind of indication of the right balance. You know, it's weird how our mind works. You know?
Vladimir,
Mm.
you started talking about judgment. I mean, and it's funny, I had a daily reading yesterday about judgment. I always thought karma was simply judgment. You know, and I like the malas where in Shaivism, where I come into a human body, there's a sense of lack, of being incomplete. I look out at the world and I see diversity where there is none. And then I judge it. And as soon as I judge it, I go chasing after or repel against. And how is that broken? I mean, again, yeah, I like that sense of balance and all of that, but I've been fascinated that as soon as I see diversity where there is none, and as soon as I judge it, I will spin through these, these incarnations, like toothpicks. I mean, don't take me seriously, but at the same time, but yeah, it's so we create the outer balance and then we go for the inner, I suppose. I'm not answering anything, I'm just posing it, but that word judgment and karma has always fascinated me too.
Right. Well, judgment is done in the mind. Mind is judging. So if we would be only mind, it would be really difficult to get out of it. But we are not the only mind. Yeah, one part in us judges, yes. The other part is envying, or the vital part reacts, likes, dislikes, attaches, fights with this, and or feels pain or feels happiness, whatever. The other part is in need, physical body, maybe hungry, maybe needs taking care of, health problems or something, or anything else, some desires. So all these parts are ourselves. We all accommodated them into one being, and one of them is acting upon the other is dominating the other, all of them are in disharmony, and there is somebody else who can make order in all this. So even if you judge, if you see that your mind is judging, you don't have to really follow it as if it is totally you. It's only part of you who is actively judging. Look at it, examine it, deal with it, deal with yourself. And we have that consciousness, or that witness, which allows us to do it. You don't have to submit to every desire and every judgment which are coming through you, You examine them, put them into the right place where you decide them to be. That's what it is said, yogi yunjita. Yogi should always connect himself with himself. Satatam atmanam yunjita. He should always come back to himself. There is no other way for you to see what is happening in this kingdom, where all the ministers are ruling the kingdom. Yeah, one of the prime minister's mind is ruling and thinking that his judgment is everything, and there are other kind of ministers, smaller ministers, so from the vital realm, who pull in different directions of likings and dislikings and desires. And there is a body who doesn't know where to go anymore. The very kingdom pulled in every direction possible. And there is also a central will in us of Purusha who can make an order, who can say, wait a minute, let us look into it. Let us connect to ourselves, to the deeper self, Atmanam, and then control the chitta, that very action of memory and experience which mind is using, which vital is using as experience, yata chittatma, who all of this chitta activities become controlled by the self, Atman, and then one becomes free from any expectation and free from any attachment to any possible possession. And that leads us to certain freedom of will, I guess. And there is one more word, ekaki, which is tricky word. I wanted to avoid it, but since I didn't mention it, maybe we can come to it. It's the difficult thing to alone. This idea of being always alone. It's a beautiful idea. It's not so bad as it looks like, you know. It means to be totally free, in a way. Yes, Siegfried.
Do you think when in this sloka says possession, exclude the own body? To be free of possessions is to be free even to the feeling of possess your own body.
I think parigraha, pari is around, yeah? Everything which surrounds us, let us say. If body is also a surrounding, then of course, like cloth is also a surrounding in a way, yeah? Or the room.
Surrounding the self, isn't it?
Well, where is that border between surrounding consciousness and that real one? Body most probably is a part of this settlement of the self. In a way, I think body is not included in parigraha. I think parigraha deals with only surrounding consciousness, not the body. I say like this because Nico wants to go. Sorry, we have Nico with us, who is sitting there and very bored. That is not his topic. About parigraha, he wants to have some food.
He says, don't treat me like a possession. Don't get rid of me.
I'm not a possession. He's not. In this house, he is a possessor, actually. Okay, he sits down here. Why I'm saying like this? Because Atman in the Veda is the word not only for the inner self, but also for the body, for the physical self. There is physical self, vital self, mental self, and supramental self. And that is not parigraha. Yeah? It is we, who we are in the physical form. We are building this physical body by the spirit embodied. It's not just nature outside, as it were. It's the self, physical self. So it has a different status, in my view. I mean, it can be argued, of course. We can discuss this. You can view it as oh, you have also a doggy there behind you. Bill, yeah.
When says Atmanam, Atmanam is different of Atman. Atmanam.
Atmanam is only the accusative case of Atma. Atma means self. By the way, Atman is a strange word. If you want to know more about this word, most probably nobody speaks about this from an etymological point of view. Etymology is not clear. And there are many propositions that maybe it is From root an, some people say. Yaska also says something strange, but nobody knows what it really means. But what is interesting, if you look at how it is being used, Atman, there is another word in the Veda, Tman, without a, long a, which means the same thing, self or body. And since it has this an suffix, Tman, like Brahman and so on, I can see that the root tam lost its a because the accent shifted on the suffix an, Tman, and taman became Tman. It's my proposition, only mine. Nobody else would kind of support this idea. But from root tam means darkness or stiffening or holding, becoming like solid, becoming like the body in itself. And I think this is the meaning of the Atman in the Veda. Something very solid, like a being, like a foundation on which you can build everything, into which you can invest forces, embody them. And then it is used as the self in general. There is a higher self, the lower self, and all the selves in between. There is Annamayamatma, the self made of matter, Pranamayamatma, the self made of prana, Manomayamatma, self made of manas, mind, Vijnanamayamatma, self made of supermind, Anandamayamatma, self made of ananda. And there is, as Sri Aurobindo says, also Chaitanya and Sat, Purusha. Now, Purusha and Atman are interchangeable terms in post-Vedic literature, but not in the Vedic. In the Vedic, Purusha and Atma are two different things. Atma is something higher, something more fundamental. Purusha is created by Atman for the sake of manifestation. And it is with the help of Purusha that Atman could be embodied. The self-awareness of the spirit could be embodied in the body because of Purusha. And that's why we resemble Purusha. With the same universal Purusha, we have the same faculties as universal Purusha, seeing, hearing, speaking, and these are the faculties of the consciousness, of unborn self, which were created for the sake of manifestation. Otherwise, manifestation would never take place. There would be only self-aware spirit, and the varieties of relations would not take place. There would be no difference between seeing and hearing, speaking and thinking, feeling and being in the body. All these are different varieties of relations within the consciousness towards the being. And that is Purusha, not Atman.
Then if I understand properly, in the Vedas, first is Atman, after that is Purusha.
Yes.
Purusha is how Atman is manifesting
through Purusha, yes. Purusha is the way how Atman comes to the world, absolutely. And Atman is a self-awareness of Brahman. Brahman is the spirit. If Brahman is existence, then Atman is existent. If Brahman is consciousness, then Atman is conscious. If Brahman is bliss, then Atman is blissful. There is self-awareness within the spirit, which wants to manifest. And it needs means, it needs tools, and it creates these tools in Purusha. That's why Purusha is sacrificed. Atman is not sacrificed. Purusha is sacrificed. Purusha, we have Purusha Suktam in the Rig Veda, where Purusha is sacrificed by the gods. The gods are his faculties. They come out of him and plunge into the darkness. And from there, all the manifestation comes into being. I hope it is not too much, all of this. I look
But
at Kimberly a little bit. No, it's okay.
It's good.
but Purusha is not manifested, is going to be manifested, but the manifestation of Purusha is Prakriti, isn't it?
Prakriti is the force of Purusha, yes. Force of his manifestation. It is the action within time and space. We can say Mother didn't like even the division on Purusha and Prakriti, and I understand more and more why. Yeah, because actually it's the action of the same thing. Only one is acting within time and space, and without him being there in Prakriti acting in time and space, Prakriti would disappear immediately. Yeah? So what is Prakriti then, if not Purusha in action? It's later in the philosophy they made these two infinite, Prakriti and Purusha, and said that they exist eternally, yes, and they mix up together and the manifestation come into being. Because in philosophical mind, in the mind which is thinking rationally, this is the easy way to explain. But yes, they are eternal because Prakriti is nothing but Purusha. And if he starts acting, she manifests the worlds. If he doesn't act, she is part of him, natural part of him. As Mother says, without him I exist not. Yes, without me he is unmanifest.
What I can see in this situation is like Purusha is the potentiality and Prakriti is the possibility. Purusha is the potentiality of to be manifest, but Prakriti is the possibility of being manifested.
Okay, we can put this wording. Purusha is a Lord. Sri Aurobindo says he is the Lord. Yeah? There is the self and the Lord. There are only two realities. The self is Atman and the Lord is Purusha. Now, why the Lord? Because the Lord, and from here Adhidaivatam, Adhidevatam, Adhidaiva, all the faculties of consciousness act on behalf of the Lord, on the behalf of the consciousness of the being. Purusha represents consciousness. Atman represents the being. So we have only being and consciousness. Now, Prakriti is the action of this consciousness in time and space. All right. Great. Somebody else was saying something. I forgot. Kimberly, you were saying something. No?
No, I just said it's good. I like listening and it makes sense.
Makes
And-
sense.
Yeah, all of these layers, all of community and yourself. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Great. I'm very glad to hear this. So this is lovely. If slowly it all falls into its place with the usage of this terminology, words, unknown first, then they become more and more known when we dwell on the text. They fall into their places. And later when we read more literature, we will find all these secret and deeper connections between these terms and twists and how rishis are using them. It becomes very significant and suggestive for deeper connection, because all these words are necessary only to connect us to a proper alignment of understanding. And once that alignment is achieved, we can think freely ourselves. We are tuning ourselves to ourselves. We are tuning ourselves to ourselves. To be ourselves. Funny. Okay, then we take number 11. Shuchau deshe pratisthapya sthiram asanam atmanach natyuchritam nati nicham chailajina kushottaram tatraikagram manach kritva yata chittendriya kriyach upavishyasane yujyat yogam atma vishuddhaye. These two are going together. It is a very traditionalistic way of doing yoga. Some of us did this in the past. I did this, exactly, nearly this, except that I didn't have the antelope, skin of antelope and kusha grass. Shuchau deshe, in the pure place, pratisthapya, having established, sthiram asanam, steady seat, atmanach, of oneself, or for oneself, let us say. Nati uchritam, not very high. Nati nicham, not very low. Chailajina kushottaram, covered with kusha grass and with the skin of black antelope. Somehow black antelope skin was important. Maybe for some reason we do not know why, but it was important. Some kind of occult power was there, which was not permitting other forces to join or something. That skin of black antelope was protecting or not allowing wrong vibrations. I have no idea. Or maybe it's just a habit, cultural habit. Tatraikagram manah kritva, and there, making mind focused on one point, yata chittendriya kriyach, and controlling all the indriyas and chitta, upavishyasane yunjyat, having sat on the seat, yunjyat, one should do yoga, yogam yunjyat, should do yoga connection, atma vishuddhaye, for the sake of purification of the self. The self is to be purified, become transparent more and more. Our surface self has to become purified to see the inner self. This is the traditional way of doing yoga, focusing mind on one point. And then the description how to do it, two more shlokas. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan achalam sthiraha samprekshya nasika gram svam dishashchanava lokayan prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrate sthitaha manach samyam yamachittah yukta asita matparaha. Samam kaya grivo, samam kaya shiro grivam. Holding straight the body, the head, and the neck. Griva is this. So, holding straight the spine, neck, and head. For some reason it was important to sit straight. Dharayan, holding. Achalam sthiraha, immobile, staying immobile, as it were. Samprekshya nasika gram svam, and having focused on the tip of the nose, on the top of the nose. Dishashchana valokayan, and not looking around, which could be the case. Prashantatma, having become totally calm. Vigatabhih, having without fear, let us say, whose fear is gone, literally. Brahmachari vrate sthitaha, staying in the brahmachari state, yeah? Without family relations, as it were. Brahmachari is not necessarily that family controlling the vow of brahmacharya observed. The original sense of brahmachari is the one who follows the Vedas, who studies the hymns. And it's very different from later post-Vedic period when Advaita took over. And brahmachari became the one who had to withdraw from family life. But not in the Vedas. It's very different. And even in Prashna Upanishad, brahmacharya is described as the one who has relations, family relations, only in the night, not the daytime. Even that is available. So it kind of evolved, this idea of brahmachari. So I'm giving you three different views in one, because Gita may refer to some deeper sense also. Manach samyam yamachittach, having controlled mind, machittach, focusing chitta on me, yukta, united, asita, should sit, matparaha, moving his consciousness onto me, or focusing only on me. This is something interesting. Our consciousness acts in a very interesting way. I can be anything where I fix my consciousness. On what? If I fix my consciousness upon some particular behavior as a criminal, I can become a criminal. If I fix my consciousness on being a saint, I can become a saint. As Sri Aurobindo beautifully says in his view, I wasn't a philosopher, I made myself a philosopher. I wasn't a poet, I made myself a poet. This is such a powerful statement. You can make yourself on whatever you fix your consciousness. One can become anything and everything. It's all in our power. We just don't know it. Nobody told us this before. We thought we are already kind of preconditioned with our nature. Yes, there are certain preconditionings, but we have a power of becoming anything and everything. So the one who fixes his consciousness upon Krishna can imagine what it becomes. He becomes like Krishna. Krishna embraces him and gives him all his powers and consciousness and bliss. That love, that identity by love, yes, which is in Mirabai's, for example, where she sees Krishna in everything and everywhere. That recognition of his presence is not an imagination. It's already a realization of certain kind, where the possession of her consciousness is taking place through Krishna being present already. That's why she sees in the trees and in the wind her beloved, because he is present. We may think, oh, she's imagining, she's fantasizing, because we do not have the same experience. But it is not so.
Vladimir, this reminds me then of earlier in the Gita where Krishna says to become me-minded. And with, focusing on Krishna, then we can realize Krishna, can see him more in all things.
Yeah, me-minded and mat-chittah. Dedicate all your chitta, all to me. It's really possible. It requires certain opening or something. I remember in my youth, I was in the Soviet Union after army came home. Soviet Union, the worst time was in Andropov's time, 1982, where people were taken from the streets by KGB and, checked on the streets. Anybody can come to you and check you, what you are, why you are here, why you are not there, or something. In the cinema, people were, KGB agents were coming, switching on lights, stopping movie, checking passports, all kind of nonsense. And in that time was the most intense discovery in my life of Krishna's presence. It was weird. I was running home to just sit at my, table with my lamp alone. The whole world is totally different around you. But that Krishna, that joy or that honey feeling or wave in the heart was there. And I was writing the most beautiful poetry in Russian to Krishna, hymns. Hymns were rising from the depth. It was a very intense period of sadhana. Me alone in my room with Krishna. Yeah. So
That's beautiful, Vladimir. We've all experienced going to the temples and the ashrams. I'll just throw in and I'll be quiet that the word sacred was just some mental concept I had no real understanding or experience of. But when it hit me, it was absolutely beautiful. But it was not just due to something I made up. It was going into a place where that practice had been built up, where that grace and that love had been, established. And when I come in contact with the lineage here, it's a sense of sacredness that it's priceless. It's beautiful.
yeah, it's quite interesting that when everything is prohibited, that becomes so dear, so sacred, so. In Soviet Union, everything was of this kind prohibited. We had hardly 5,000 copies of Bhagavad Gita translated into Russian. All other copies were totally prohibited. Sri Aurobindo was prohibited as a reactionist. If they would find something of Sri Aurobindo in your house, you would go to Siberia. Yeah? So only those books were available only in special libraries. And you had to have a special permission as a kind of scientist, or, for example, philosophers and psychologists were not allowed to read Sri Aurobindo's books, even if they were doing some kind of research. Yeah? Even scientists. But linguists, for some reason, KGBs did make the distinction. The psychologists, philosophers should not read this, but linguists can read it, because Sanskrit, God knows what they are doing there. Yeah? So, and since I was a linguist, I got a special permission. And I remember in Leningrad that time, there is a big library, and there was only one set of Sri Aurobindo's books in a special prohibited place where you have to go with special permission, leave all your things outside, come in, and then sit in the room, nothing else, nothing to make copies with. And they bring you the book which you ordered. And there were the whole volumes, 30 volumes of Sri Aurobindo there. And I remember first time I ordered The Secret of the Veda, and they brought this, from his century edition. And I remember they brought, and it was smelling like fungus, because nobody ever opened those books. They were there forever. I mean, forever. It's from 1970. It's like, how many years? It was 86, 16 years. Most probably nobody touched them. So, and I remember opening that book and those golden pages, yeah. And I couldn't even read, I just had to sit and to touch the pages and to smell that smell. For 1 hour, I just was sitting and it was just going in. So after 1 hour, I just left without reading, even just touching the book. Next day, I came and I started to read. I had to get a contact with it. So this is what prohibition does, you know. Prohibition is good, as Mother says. Adverse forces are they are helping the divine forces to come stronger in a way. I can't forget that wonder of secret of the Veda, looking at those golden pages. I couldn't believe that I could come to so close to the truth, you know, in the Soviet Union. What a grace. And then when I went to Pune University in 92, I went to this big shop. They had this like workshop near the river. And there I asked to have Sri Aurobindo's books. They said, yeah, Sri Aurobindo. In front, all these beautiful big books, you know, Khajuraho Temple, all these. Yeah, Sri Aurobindo there at the back. So I went to the back. And at the back, at the bottom, there were all these Life Divine, Secret of the Veda in the corner, dusty corner, these soft edition, you know, these soft, cheap editions, 80 rupees, 60 rupees, synthesis, 80 rupees, Life Divine that time. So I grabbed all of them and I sent to Russia to all my friends. I was so happy to get these books, so cheap. Incredible. Yeah, we have to know what we are missing. You know? If we take it for granted, we just even do not know what it means, really.
That leads me to a question. Why do so few people read Sri Aurobindo or the Mother's collected works? Is it because the English is kind of hard to read?
I don't know that the number of people matters in this case. At least Mother says that doesn't matter really. Some people are very proud that they have millions of followers. Look at who has how many followers. Does it really mean something?
Well, I guess, Nishad, as I understand your question, if there's so much truth and so much vision in Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's books, why aren't more drawn to the light? You know, why
Right.
doesn't everybody want to drink the nectar, the soma, the wisdom? And this is a question I asked too, Nishad, is I can't believe it. Once you get a taste of it, it's like, doesn't everyone want some of this? And so I do wonder why there's such a small following when it's the richest, in my mind, the richest that's out there. So it's perplexing.
Yeah.
You know, and I was here in America and I thought, gosh, there's just not many followers. Not many people even know who Sri Aurobindo is. And then you go to India and it's like, well, there's not that many more there that are aware. And it's like, what's going on? How can this be? And I guess the world just isn't ready for it yet. You know, that could be one thing. It's just not ready yet. And slowly. And I don't know, Vladimir and I have talked about this. There is a sense that I have that things are opening. There are wider openings now for his teachings than ever before. And we see more and more people coming to listen, to hear what integral yoga is about. That's open to hearing Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's name. So there's something going on right now that I think is maybe not going to blow open the world to their teachings, but certainly a much wider opening than ever before. And so it's important that you know, we're aware of this and can support this in any way that we can.
Yeah, Radha, I think that's very true. that as a kind of movement, a contagious movement, it seems to be growing. Robert and I have a friend who left Oroville many years ago and focused on a career and was not able to be in touch with the wider community of the integral yoga in the United States for several decades. And he recently wrote me and asked about what was happening in the US and how he might connect with it. And he was lamenting, excuse me, the lack of numbers and the spread of this knowledge. And after I wrote to him about the different centers and including LaGrasse and the work that you all are doing, he was just astounded, you know, that that there's such an increased awareness than there was several decades ago. So I think that I know numbers do not matter as much as sincerity, and a few sincere followers are more important than a larger movement. But I do think there's a growing interest, and it's very fortunate.
Yeah.
I hear your doggy there, I think.
Yeah,
Little
he's-
Nico. He
He
goes,
also
dinner
wants to
time.
participate.
Dinner
See?
time.
Ours is asleep.
I think he was just agreeing with you, Martha. Going,
He was saying yes, yes.
It's a new follower.
yes, there you go. Even he is open, and that's
He's
what's
very
happening.
open.
It's probably me in my next lifetime at the feet of the teacher.
That's a little scary.
Right. But yes, I totally agree with every one of you that there are so many kind of facets or approaches, views, why there are not so many followers. And I have my idea, which kind of also evolved with time, that Sri Aurobindo's teaching is not a teaching. Yeah, it is something which is to be embodied, and the world is absorbing it. It is going through everywhere. You can see these ideals are taking over the world, the minds of people. It's not in the form of guru and shishya anymore. It is another type of influence, silent and deeper and more subjective in a way. The truth will dominate anyhow. So, and Sri Aurobindo represented for me the truth rather than some subjective view of the guru whom I have to follow because I respect him. Or it's not that. He represents the truth. Yes? Something bigger, something more dynamic, never closed in one particular form or another, inclusive of all truths. And that is something we try to find. And most probably that's why it is difficult to read or to promote or to do something with it in the religious form, yes, or propaganda form.
But I think also there's so many universal principles that the world's ready for. You know, we talk about these 12 qualities or 12 living principles: sincerity, courage, goodwill, peace. Everybody's open. So it's not so much Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and like you said, their teachings. It's the universal principles that the world is now looking for and searching for. That's applicable in any religion, any path.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's not another form of religion. It's not a sect or some kind of teaching or some philosophy, integral yoga. Integral yoga is not against any other form of knowledge. It just finds its right place and right proper power and utility for the discovery of the higher truth. Yeah. So all are welcome. All forms of knowledge are welcome. And they have their place. We only have to find it and to value it in that place. So it's fine. For me, Sri Aurobindo was never in that form a guru. It's something bigger than even any guru. It's something like, I don't know, Deva Deva, the god of the gods, or guru of gurus, or something. He brought freedom to inquiry, freedom to discover the truth. And that's why we can think ourselves. We don't need to think in his terms only. He never wanted us to do it. He wanted us to learn to think for ourselves in a true way. And there will be many discoveries, unexpected, which he even didn't think about, but they will come out. And this is the future of Sri Aurobindo. Makes sense, yeah? Especially to the Sri Aurobindo's followers, I think it makes sense totally. It's, for others who do not know him, that may look a little bit overwhelming or absolutistic or something.
I can share that I see his, I'm sorry, I see his name in a lot of places because I listen to a lot of books, and I read, and I'm open to a lot of different things, and a lot of great teachers point to Sri Aurobindo.
More and more, you find that more and more Sri Aurobindo is coming to the mind when they want to integrate things, to make it more modern, more futuristic. Immediately Sri Aurobindo comes to mind. Yeah.
And even in the past too, you know, there's works like Integral, like John Gebser and
Sure.
Tarad de Chardin and Thomas More, and people who aren't here in this life anymore, but they have pointed to him, and I wouldn't have known who he was if I hadn't had the invitation here.
Right. So nice that you mentioned these great philosophers and thinkers. Yes. They all refer to Sri Aurobindo, yes, and with the highest kind of homage. And Gebser decided even that Sri Aurobindo is his influence, who made influence on his own writing, the most important, the origin of the ever-present origin, the book.
Yes.
Which is quite a thing also to study, beautiful thing. Yes, Siegfried, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think we are a little bit rare species in the human big species. I think to be attracted with the perspective vast and deep of Sri Aurobindo, you have to be a little bit intellect curiosity. You have to have this kind of intellect curiosity. And nowadays, if you observe how the young people is managing the language with this kind of quick messages and superficial way of communication, I think this is not for them. They are not. I think the way you are using the language is the way you are using your mind. And if you communicate with others with WhatsApp or this kind of apps, you are using so superficial the language. Then it's very difficult to go deep in your mind. And if you are not used to go deep in your mind, you are not allowed to understand the perspective of Sri Aurobindo. But I am agree about Sri Aurobindo is more than intellect. Is could be more vibration. Sri Aurobindo is vibration, like the poetry and the supramental perspective, what we was talk about the last week, could be the vibration of Sri Aurobindo and the mother are more close for the humanity than the knowledge. This is what I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that vibration, it is their consciousness, presence, which they embody for they already kind of created a particular formation to support the development of humanity. And if we rely on it, we progress faster, we open up faster to the future. This was the work of the great beings coming down to hasten the evolution of consciousness and to show us where we are moving, because we even didn't know that there will be next stage in evolution. We didn't even think about it. Nobody even speaks about it. Great, let's stop here at this point. Yeah, if somebody wants to say something, please, this would be good time before we close.
But, just because you mentioned evolution, I guess where the name is coming up is in conversations about evolution.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, so there are a lot of different places all over the world that are addressing these universal principles, that Roddy mentioned. And I find myself, just because I'm happening to intersect with these, I want to stop just automatically identifying, well, that's the same as this, and that's the same. I'm trying to just clear, and not have any category for anything and just absorb it. And I just have a sense that this is the time that these are being embodied in action more than just, our minds. I hope so. And I'm putting my attention there.
Very lovely. Yeah, very good. Totally kind of with you in this. Yes. Very good formulation of thought. Yeah. It becomes rounded. It becomes tangible, full of some meaning and force. That's beautiful. It shows that Sri Aurobindo is here influencing us from within. That's how we are growing. That is Sri Aurobindo for me, not some kind of person somewhere who has to be, we have to put some malas on the top and put some pujas around. It's not the person. The person is from within growing the divine. Great. That's why we don't have that religious attitude towards him. We really don't. Yeah? Even if we have some portraits here and there, it's just something else. It's not the same as usually people use these things. Oh, great. Then I will, yeah, that's it for today. Somebody else? Oh, Bill is smiling. Yeah. No? Okay, I'm closing that. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, see you then next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Namaste.
thank you, Vladimir.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Yeah,
Good
bye bye.
Night.